welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and welcome to another weekly reading vlog. Today is Friday, July 14th, and I actually just finished filming the wrap-up clip for my last vlog, and I like to try to start it like the day after or, you know, something like that, so there's not too much of a gap in between. But the reason I'm starting it immediately afterwards is that I'm doing a weekend reading challenge with my Patreon this weekend, so I wanted to kind of like introduce like what my goals are and what I'm reading for that, so that way I can do a follow-up for that in this vlog. So my goal is to read 350 pages this weekend, and last time I tried to do 400 pages, and that just ended up being a little bit too much, even though it was not very busy weekend. This one's not crazy busy either. There's a couple things I have going on, but it's not too crazy busy. And so I was like, 350 pages sounds way more reasonable. So I'm actually doing really well. It's noon on Friday, and I've already read over 100 pages. I read 30 pages of Posthumous Memoirs of Cubas, which I talked about in my last vlog, and really enjoying this. Have about 30 pages left of this, so I should finish this for sure by the end of this vlog, and I think I will be finishing it by the end of the weekend, actually. I also already mentioned in my last vlog that I finished Once Upon a K-Prom, read 70 pages of that. I think it was like 71 or something like that. So I'm already over 100 pages, so I'm doing really well so far, so early. So that's really good. So my focus books for this weekend, actually my biggest focuses are Posthumous Memoirs of Cubas, and then also Princess Bari. I really want to finish that this weekend. I'm 75 pages in out of about 250. So that's about 175 pages left, plus 30 pages of Cubas would give me an additional 200, so I'd only need 50 pages more to meet my goal. This is actually so compulsively readable for me. I think the only reason that I didn't finish it this past week is because I was really focusing on Once Upon a K-Prom. But anyways, I've mentioned this in the last vlog, but this is essentially kind of like a North Korean defector story where we start with Bari, who is the 7th of 7 girls, and there have been no boys, so not a very popular position to be in. And there's some situations that take place towards the beginning of the book where her family is forced to flee from North Korea over the river into China. And this is taking place in the 90s. Looking at the back, I think it says that she ends up in London. I don't know if she ends up in London as an adult or as a child. She's still definitely a child at this point. So I'm just kind of interested to see when that progression takes place. The beginning of it feels so atmospheric and so like kind of like folklore-y. There's like a folk tale that she is named after that plays a key role in the beginning of the book, and so I'm really interested to see how that continues to play out through her life. I am reading this for K-Tropathon for the Destiny and Fate Square, and then I'm also going to be counting it for my summer book bingo in the coming of age story. So it will check off boxes on multiple bingo boards, so I really want to finish this book this weekend. I also made no progress on the Memoirs of Lady Hae-gyung, so I would love to finish this stinking introduction. I'm like this close to just skipping the rest of the introduction, just starting the memoir, because the memoir is gonna be better. I just know it is. And then lastly, I am working on Mansfield Park. I am 6 chapters in so far. Didn't get a ton of it read last week, but it's gonna be my primary bedtime read. And now I also have the audiobook. I was waiting for that to come in. It's the Juliet Stevenson audiobook, which is my favorite. I love her. She's my favorite narrator, especially for the like Regency and Victorian time period, because I've listened to her narrate 2 Victorian books, and now this will be my second Jane Austen book that I've heard her narrate. So really looking forward to that. So those are my reading plans for the weekend. I have some books that I really want to start on Monday or Tuesday, so I'm hoping I can finish Princess Bari and Posthumous Memoirs so I can kind of start fresh with a couple of books that I want to start next week. And I'll update you on that when we get there. been running all week. My cat says hello. I have been running all week and not been home Monday or Tuesday, and it's Wednesday and I'm about to leave again. So that's just kind of the week that I'm having. So now is the chance that I've had to update you. My weekend reading challenge went pretty well. I think that I met my goals. I kind of started like losing track, and I listened to some audiobook stuff, so that makes me think that that's why I think, because I know physically I did read a little bit over 300 pages, but I know I listened to some of Mansfield Park as well, and I have no idea how many pages that would count for. So I am about 25% of the way through Mansfield Park, and I really love it. I know a lot of people really don't like Fanny. They think that she's weak-minded and a pushover, and I disagree. I think that she's lived her whole life being made to feel like she is a burden that shouldn't impose on other people, because her very presence is enough of an imposition, and she should just be grateful for what she has. And so I think that that is part of the reason why she's like that, and she's just a kind, considerate human. I think she's a gem so far anyway. I mean, things could change, but I relate to Fanny so far more than I do to, say, Emma Woodhouse. I did finish a couple of other books. So I finished Princess Bari, and oh my word, this book is so sad, but I loved it so much. I felt like the writing was really good. If you are sensitive to things, for sure, check the trigger warnings. I didn't feel like it was too much for me, and I am sensitive to certain things, so I didn't feel like it was gratuitous or especially graphic, but it is intensely, intensely heavy. Some of the things that she goes through in this book, and the process of her journey to London, and even the things that she experiences once she's finally in safety. She's not actually really all that safe. There's still other things that keep happening to her that are terrible, and it's a very, very sad book, but also with a lot of wonderful writing and a lot of kind of insight into forgiveness and bitterness and moving past the past. And there's a lot of beauty to this book as well. It's not a 5-star read for me, not perfect, but really glad that I read it, and one that I could potentially see myself rereading in the future. I also finished The Posthumous Memoirs of Bras Cubas, and I really, really enjoyed this book. I don't know if I have too much to add other than what I've already said, but I do think it's interesting because Dia had read some of the biographical stuff about the author and introduction and stuff, and you know, some of the reasons why he's writing the way that he's writing is he was writing to a primarily Catholic audience at the time. So it's really interesting that he was choosing some really kind of like scandalous things at the time that Bras Cubas was doing. And so I think it's very, very interesting that he chose to do that. And there was a lot of people who were saying they were devout Catholics, but they're acting a certain way. And so it's kind of sort of trying to shine a light on that, and also maybe be a bit of a cautionary tale as to maybe how you should not live your life. Anyways, I loved it. There's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot of different philosophical things that are in here, in particular one character that kind of goes off in his own philosophical tangent. But you know, there's a lot to talk about what is a life well lived, that at the end of your life you feel like you have achieved something, you feel like it was worth it, you feel like you contributed to society or the lives of those around you in some way and left some sort of lasting impact or legacy. But there's also like, there's some things that are just very quotable, but there are things that are really, really funny. Over the weekend, I did start Deep as the Sky, Red as the Sea, which was not on my TBR at all. I picked it up at the library. As you can see, it is a 14-day loan. So there's a very limited amount of time that I have it. I am 56 pages in, which is not very much. It's out of about 250, more like 275. And I think I'm gonna DNF it. I think it's not really a book for me. I like the premise of it. It is about like a Chinese pirate queen who was a real person in real life, and then it takes and puts some fantasy elements in there as well, I think. But there are things in it that are just not for me. I'll just put it that way. I don't think that I'm going to be happy that I stuck with this book just based on some of the content and things that's in it so far. But I was gonna use this for my seaside island setting on my bingo board, and now I can't, so I kind of have to rethink that because I was gonna use Moby Dick, but I don't think I'm gonna get to Moby Dick the way that I had planned to. So I don't think I'm gonna finish this and be able to check this off on that square either. So I'm gonna kind of be back to the drawing board for that one, unfortunately. I've also started This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger. This is the book that is for my homeschool mama book club that we do in person, and that book club meeting is next week. So I have this whole book to read pretty much this week. I am only 4 chapters in. I've read 38 pages so far, so I'm not very far at all. Liking the writing style so far. The setting is about these kids, and they're attending a school of this really abusive couple who are running it and really terrible to the children. The majority of the children who go to the school are Native American children. So most of them actually like go home for the summer. They're still pretty ill-treated at this school year during the year. But right now it's summertime, so a lot of the kids are not there, but some of the kids are there who have either been orphaned, and then there's 2 brothers who are there, and they are white, and they're some of the very few white children that are there, but they don't have parents and were sent there as kind of like wards of the state when their parents passed away. And so we're just kind of following them so far, and I think that this kind of takes kind of a Odyssey / Huckleberry Finn kind of a turn in terms of like a journey down the river and them probably trying to escape is what I think. But I'm not very far into it, but I'm pretty sure that that is the direction the story is going to take. And yeah, I have talked to a lot of the other moms in my group have gotten a lot farther. They're either almost done with it or at least halfway through it, and they're all saying it is like incredibly sad. So I'm knocking it out of the park with sad or difficult books this month, because you know we've also got Almond and Princess Bari, and then we've got this, and so there's been a lot of heavier and much sadder books that I've been reading lately. Last but not least, yet another book that I'm barely into, Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. I'm reading this with Dio. We read Scythe together back in April, I think, and we're just now finally getting to Thunderhead because I just was too overbooked. I am 6 pages in, and I need to read another like 6 or 7 chapters today to kind of keep up with the pace that we were hoping to have. And it's not like I really have to have that pace, but I really would like to finish this book within a week. I need to finish This Tender Land, and I'm also supposed to start a little bit later this week, If I Had Your Face, with Christy. We're going to be reading that for K-Tropathon. That's going to be my flowers on the cover title. And so I really want to finish up some of those because next week I really want to start Oathbringer. So those are the plans. So I would like to make a little bit more progress in these books, but this has just been a really crazy week where I really haven't been home hardly at all. And today will be no exception to that. I had a lot of fun yesterday. I went book shopping with my in real life book friend, Whitney. And we also took our friend Kelly with us, and we took our daughters with us, and it was a lot of fun. Then we got Korean food afterwards, which you already saw the clips of that, and it was just amazing. I was so excited to go to a Korean restaurant that actually served banchan, all those side dishes, because I got to try them all. So that was really cool. And then I got bibimbap, and Claire got japchae, and Claire has never been able to do chopsticks before, and I can't do them very well either. But I know how to hold them, I just can't quite get the mechanic well, and I just haven't put in the time to practice. So we showed her how to hold them, and she just took off, and now she's eaten everything today with chopsticks. She ate japchae with chopsticks yesterday. She was eating like little pieces of bean sprouts and able to pick up little things and big things with it, and I was just very, very, very impressed. So anyways, I have to go get a few things done, and then I'm leaving again. So I will keep you updated, and hopefully the next time I talk to you, I would love to have at least made a lot more progress in some of these books and have more formulated thoughts for you. the end of the week, and it's been a really crazy week. I feel like I could hibernate, but that's not gonna happen. But at least I can be home today. It's Saturday, and normally I wrap these up on Friday, and it just didn't happen yesterday because I wasn't home pretty much all day yesterday. So we're wrapping this up just a little bit later than normal, which means it will probably be posted later than normal. Either be posted like later on Saturday or Sunday morning. But that's okay. It's all okay. I have not finished any books, but I have made very decent progress in both of the books that I am more consistently working on. I am still working on Mansfield Park as well, but I'm mostly just listening to it when I do stuff. So I think I'm about 30 to 35% of the way through Mansfield Park, I think, at this point, and really enjoying listening to the audiobook when I'm doing chores or whatever. And then I've also been reading this Tinderland, which I'm about halfway, it looks like. I'm on chapter 28. So I was really struggling with this book at first because the first part of it is just like really horrific, to be honest. It's not very explicit or graphic, but the abuse that these children are undergoing at this school is just so hard, and I was having a really hard time with it, and I really had to like take some breaks in there because the intensity just felt like a lot. And I think part of the reason for that is that it was coming right on the heels of Princess Bari, which came right on the heels of Almond. And so like right in a row I was reading books that had very, very difficult subject matter, even though all three of those subject matters were very, very different. But even out of like all three of them had stuff involving children, although probably Almond a little less so because most of that book takes place with him as a teenager. And the same with Princess Bari, has lots of difficult things when she's an adult. This is entirely children. And I think that if I had read this not on the heels of a couple of very difficult books that were very sad, I think that I would have already finished it by now. But like I said, I need to take some breaks. After I finished part 1, which I think is around 90 pages, the rest of it, the next 100 pages have been much better. And that doesn't mean it hasn't still had difficult subject matter or sad things happening to these poor little children or all those kinds of things. It's still been very difficult, and there's been a lot of things happening to them. And things are okay right now in the story where I am, but I know better than to relax. I know that it just continues to be sad and difficult, and I'm just mentally preparing myself for that. I'm also about halfway through Thunderhead. I have completed 22 chapters. So yeah, about halfway through this too. So I've made some decent progress in both of these books this week. Read over 200 pages of both of them. So I'm pleased with that, considering how insanely busy this week has been. I've been gone most of the day, most days this week. So I've like read in the evening before bed and when I wake up first thing, and that's pretty much the only reading time that I've had. Is just little snatches of time here and there. I'm loving this. So I read Scythe earlier this year, which is kind of this dystopian world. Well, dystopian / utopian, I guess you can decide. It's supposed to seem pretty utopian, but it's after the point where humans have obtained all knowledge. So they no longer have the cloud where information is stored. They have the Thunderhead, which is also the title of this book. And so since they have discovered all of these things, they've discovered how to basically become immortal, because they've figured out how to cure every single disease and even how to reverse the aging process in people's bodies. So when they reach a certain age, they can be what they call set back and go back to a younger age. And so now that humans are essentially not dying, they have assigned these scythes, who are people who come and they glean, which means that they kill off a certain percentage of the population, and they have a quota that they have to fill. And some of the scythes use like statistics from when people were dying to help make their decision, in terms of like, oh, well, so many people died in car crashes every single year. So, you know, someone who owns a car will, you know, like different things like that. So, but anyway, so this is the sequel, and I don't really want to say any more than what I've already said. That's just kind of like the setup in case you're one of the few people like myself who had not read Scythe, because I feel like I was one of the last people I know of who had not read Scythe. It is YA, but it's so good, and it doesn't feel super angsty. And this book we are introduced into with a couple more viewpoints, because in the first book we had two main viewpoints because we had two teenagers who were being trained to be scythes. And so we were kind of following their journeys, and then this is picking up where the last book left off. But we're being introduced to a couple more viewpoints, one of them who was a character in the last book and one of whom was not and is like a brand new character. This book is just a lot of fun, and yeah, there's obviously some themes and some other things that are happening in it, and deeper things you could talk about, and it's not like it's happy times or anything like that, but it's more entertaining, and it's definitely not as heavy as this Tenderland, which is making me just enjoy it that much more because it feels like a reprieve from a lot of the heavier books that I've been reading. And I'm finding that this is working better for me because I had a week where I tried to read easier books and I was reading like Once Upon a K-Prom, and like it just like wasn't doing it for me. And I was like, I think that's because like I didn't really want something light and fluffy. I just wanted something that either felt fun and entertaining or was more like lighthearted and comforting without actually being like shallow. And I felt like Once Upon a K-Prom was pretty shallow, which is standard for kind of a rom-com kind of a book. Don't usually find too much depth in those. So I think I was hoping for something that I wasn't. I think I didn't know my own mind as to what I actually wanted. But this is really fitting the bill for me right now. So I'm really enjoying this one. So that's the progress that I've made this week. Like I said, I'm thrilled that I read as much as I did considering what a busy week it was. And I read a lot over the weekend, so you did still get some finished books, but hopefully I will get these books finished soon-ish, because like I said, I really want to start Oathbringer as soon as possible. I'm really looking forward to reading that. So hopefully the next vlog will have some Oathbringer content in it. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. If you've read any of the books that I'm reading, feel free to share your thoughts. I know this Tenderland is kind of like a really popular book that a lot of people have read and really loved, but I don't think I was mentally prepared for the amount of heaviness that it would entail, but I'm still enjoying it. Still really liking the writing style and absolutely adore the characters in it. But I would also love to hear, what have you been reading lately? I hope that you've been enjoying what you've been reading. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me. And I will see you again next time.